Bring in Steve Schmidt. Steve, earlier today, Jim Messina said, when I talked about reconciliation, because, you know, again, I said this yesterday, it's just whenever I was in the law, whenever I was in, I always think there's a deal to be made. I always think there's a way that we can come together. I always think there's a way that we move forward. And sometimes I'm far too naive. But when I said this, Jim Messina said, well, you're right, but we must start by telling the truth. And I just said, the Lincoln Project should come up with 5 simple phrases that every member of Congress should sign off on. And every member of the media should ask, do you believe this election was stolen? Do you believe there's a conspiracy theory of leftists who are cannibals and child rapists? Do you, whatever your 5 are that stops Kevin McCarthy from being able to have it both ways? Tell me what you think about that idea and what those questions might be. And also talk about Kevin McCarthy and the Jim Crow tactics he used over the past few weeks.
Good morning, Joe. It's good to be with you. I was just listening to you and was reminded about the reality that the first act of the first Congress was to prescribe an oath to federal officials. And here was the oath. It was, I do solemnly swear or affirm to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Full stop. That's the question that's on the table. These men, these women are unfaithful to their oath of office. They have turned faithless with regard to American democracy. They have poisoned faith and belief in the legitimacy of the system. And what Kevin McCarthy did on June the 6th is he rose as the leader of House Republicans for the vile cause of throwing out, discarding, eradicating millions and millions and millions of black votes from the states who had certified their elections. That is the definition of a new Jim Crow. It wasn't even the pretense of, if you can guess how many jelly beans are in the jar, then you get to vote. It was a federal action taken by the Congress, led by the Republican leader, in the name of retaining the loser of the presidential election, a fascist named Donald Trump, who incited violence against the people of the United States as the capital of the United States fell to a seditious mob. And Kevin McCarthy stood up there and voted to throw out millions of black votes. And here's his problem. And here's the problem for Republicans. About $200 million of corporate money flowed into the campaign coffers of the super PACs, of the leadership funds. Every one of those companies has put out statements in favor of racial justice over the course of this last summer and these last years. They've all put out statements in favor of Black Lives Matter. They've all denounced the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. They've all set goals in their company to empower their black employees. And all of those companies have millions of black customers and thousands of black employees. And none of those companies ever again can write a check to the group of political leaders that sought to throw out the votes for no good reason. In fact, the claims were rejected in 68 federal court decisions, voted to throw them out. So corporate America can never, ever support these people again. We have a fascistic enterprise alive and well in America. We have an autocratic movement that's supported by 42%. And before we talk about reconciliation, we must talk about accountability, and we must talk about justice, and we must talk about the punishment for the violence done to the government of the United States. There are only 2 ways to win a fight. You can bring your opponent to submission, or your opponent can bring you to exhaustion. When you think about losing a fight through exhaustion, you think about the United States in Iraq or Afghanistan or in Vietnam. When you think about submission, you think about what happened to the South in the Civil War. You think about Germany and Japan. And so our offer on the table for the seditionists is a fight where we will bring you to submission. This must be crushed. This must be annihilated. This illiberalism, this undemocratic moment must be met head on.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.